get this sense of excitement whenever one of my old school bands comes out with something that's new, that's refreshing. Because if you follow a band for a long time, they tend to mature as time goes on. Everybody goes through life experiences. Metallica is probably one of the best examples off the top of my head of this, because they started out hardcore and eventually they just kind of slowed down to country. Not quite that, but you know what I mean. Like you lose a little bit of your edge when you don't have the young teenage 20-year-old angst, the idea of the invincibility of the world, that your passions can lead you. You can bounce yourself off the world and just, you'll survive. So there's 3 bands that I've taken with me for quite a while. I remember reading that between the age of 17 and 22, whatever you listen to, like those years, that's what you're going to listen to roughly for the rest of your life. So my big 3, there's exceptions to that, obviously. My big 3 were Tool, 9 Inch Nails, and Bad Religion. Bad Religion, I kind of disagree with them on their worldview, but they have some very good songs that deal with the heart. They contradict once in a while. They're very inconsistent. But I guess that's the nature of chaos and anarchy when you're in the punk rock realm. Tool has this like otherworldly approach. They talk about transcendent things, and then they talk about hooker with a penis. And then I thought the song was really good before. I thought it was called Maynard's Dead. But no, when I looked up the name of the song, it's called Maynard's Dick. So like once in a while they'll throw a jab in there that says, you should pay attention to what you're listening to. It might sound good, but you really should pay attention to what you're listening to, what you're putting in your ears. And if you're taking something silly seriously, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? You have to grasp the whole concept. But 9 Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, has been kind of consistently serious. Exceptions here and there, like Big Man with a Gun. Yeah, okay. But even that, in the context of like the downward spiral, that's pretty intense. So he came out with a new song, As Alive As You Need Me to Be. And it's a single, and it's off the Tron soundtrack, which is going to come out September 19th, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to make sure I get that. I don't know if it's going to be a whole bunch of singing songs on there, but I like to see how he branched out. And you can trace this back to when like Napster came out. He started putting himself into like video game soundtracks, movie soundtracks instead, because you could just see the technological fractal just putting itself out there. And Tron's a really neat movie. Tron is short for Electron, by the way, per the creators. And Tron it's the idea, if you haven't seen the first couple movies, that you get the user, whoever the protagonist is, they get zapped into the world in the electrons in the video game. So basically like a video game world. And there's a whole other world going on behind there. So every video game character you play is actually like this abstract ones and zeros type thing. And you never knew it existed. And you can live there for a very long time, apparently. But it has its own rules. And I think in the last movie, like, conscious beings started to be, like, thrown into the mix. And I could see that being, like, AI. Now, I don't see us plugging in completely. It seems to go the opposite way from what Tron predicted. Is that electrons with the AI is kind of coming out into the world here, as opposed to us plugging all of our sensors in to an electronic device. It's like an alternate reality, which I think is kind of good, because it'd be weird if we just became electrons. Like, who would maintain the facility? That's kind of beside the point. So what I'm going to do today is I've listened to this song a couple times. I'm going to dive into it and try to psychoanalyze the lyrics. Now, psychoanalyze, just going by the definition, is it's kind of like a personal approach. You're trying to dive into the personal meaning underneath. Now, I don't know Trent Reznor very well, but I do know this movie, so we're going to try to take it with the context of the concept of the movie, because we don't really know what the movie's about. Now, it's called Tron Ares, and Ares is the god of war in the Greek, if I'm not mistaken. I know it means in the throe of battle or ruin. That's also what Ares can mean. From what I remember from the last movie, there's this character named Rinsler. And Rinsler was like the I beat you no matter what type deal. And I tried to look up the name Rinsler, because I think it's very, like, names have meaning. There's importance there. So Rinsler is actually, when the people were making the movie, he saw a book on someone's table that said the making of, authored by something Rinsler. I think it was the making of Star Wars and the making of Indiana Jones. Like one of those books. And Rensler seemed like a cool name, and so I thought that was kind of a neat concept that's overlapped. And you can take this for being meaningful or not, but like the guy that authored what it took to make a fictional universe is actually the guy that can destroy everybody in the abstract universe. I just thought it was kind of neat. And he was the video game master. Rensler could not be defeated. And eventually, if you remember the last movie, Rensler ends up falling into the sea of simulation, I think it is. So he gets he dies saving the good guys when consciousness finally wakes up within him. And then we don't hear anything from him anymore. It's kind of dark and lonely. It's the path of the warrior, I guess. You're going to die by the sword. You're going to fade away. But if you die protecting something that's worthy of protecting, life continues. So that's good. So we're going to attempt to take the context of being in the electronic world. Worlds merging, because in the last movie also, the abstract, like we're witnessing right now with AI, a character actually came out. Just like in the movie it came in, but a character came out. It was living in our world. So I'm kind of anxious to see where that progresses. So I'm going to step by step go through these lyrics and try to pull out the hidden meaning, because there's a lot of things in Trent Reznor's lyrics beyond just the creativity element, which I think he's very good at, mixing sounds, making and mixing sounds, or maybe just molding sounds, because who makes sound, right? But they wouldn't be interesting, they wouldn't be able to be resonated with unless they actually spoke some kind of truth that was behind the scenes. That's where the psychoanalysts came into play. So I'm going to try to see exactly how this song calls to us, because it's a pretty good song. And we're going to go from there. So let me pull it up here. So I'm going to pause it here and there just so we can go over the progression thereof.
Makes me feel infection. It's almost like a tongue on the back of my neck. I never had a choice, connection. I never had a chance to catch my breath. It's eating up the space between us. It's eating up all remaining doubt. It's filling up the hole inside you. It's trying to find a way to let itself out.
So there's a good bit to unpack there. The way it makes me feel infection. It's almost like a tongue in the back of my neck. So there's something about Trent Reznor's lyrics that's also kind of gritty. It gets under your skin. Downward Spiral, I think, was one of the best ways he did that. With Teeth does a pretty good job of it too. So it's that sense of uncomfortableness, the sense of merging, the sense of change, right? Because as you age and as you change your mind, as you mature, part of you has to die. Part of the abstract, invincible part of you, especially as you age, has to die. Because, your mortality is on the horizon. It's getting ever closer. I never had a choice connection. I never had a chance to catch my breath. So I'm going to try to go as deep and as far down as I can to take these patterns and kind of etch them onto what's going on with us here, and maybe with this movie too, because everything that calls to you in a song lyric has deep meaning that's etched into the very creation and the way things are put together in the universe. We can't help it. We are moral meaning extractors and pattern recognizers. That's what we are as human beings. So I never had a choice connection. I never had a chance to catch my breath. That's in Eric Neuman's book, The Great Mother, is a good one to really pour yourself into if you're interested in how consciousness came to be. And that's why the feminine and chaos are kind of, they're more hand in hand than the masculine and chaos. Masculine has to take chaos and make order out of it. That's the concept there. But all life comes from the unknown. All life comes from chaos, potential. Women are closer to that than men are. So we kind of never had a choice when it came to being born. It's not like your parents can ask you that. You never have a choice of being connected to the material. And I guess in this movie, the same thing, like the very first movie, I remember how he got connected. A machine paralyzed him and started zapping his fingers off, teleported him into the realm. So he didn't really have a choice. He was just going to be brought there by the machine. Never had a chance to catch your breath. And this is so the way this overlaps onto what the mortal mind is. As you grow and you age, there's things expected of you. You realize this especially when you have children. I have an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old. I expect more out of the 13-year-old than the 8-year-old. You should. There's different competence levels. And I think the brain never stops developing. But specifically, unless you intentionally put work into it, I think the male brain doesn't stop developing until like 26. Women get there a lot faster than men just because of the nature of their being. So it's eating up the space between us. It's eating up all remaining doubt. So Trent Reznor has this thing, at least when I was unpacking the downward spiral. There's 3 people, but they're all the same person. So it's an amazing Trinitarian thing. And the thing the downward spiral does is it goes in and down instead of up and out. Like if you have an ideal, God exists, there's an up and out. You can progress. There's a concept of the perfect that you're going to try to aim for. But if that doesn't exist, then there's still a Trinitarian concept. And you can look at it like the flesh, the abstract, and the mediator between the two. And the vision you get in the downward spiral is one person watching another person beat somebody. And all 3 of those are you. So the space between you, I mean, you are the same person. You're the abstract and the material. Carl Jung in his Red Book wrote because Carl Jung could give himself waking dreams and speak with his unconscious. So I'm gonna explain these things briefly, but in other videos I've explained it a little bit more thoroughly. So he explained when he was talking to his unconscious, one of the ways it manifested itself to him was it's a blind girl and an old man and a snake that follows them. So it's Trinitarian. So the blind girl doesn't care about what she sees. She only cares about what she feels. And the old man can see everything. He can see the future, but he doesn't feel anything. And the snake is a symbol of change because it sheds its skin. And so they have to have a relationship. He has to see for her sake, and she feels for him. And that's you, and that's me, and that's the world. Like, it's crazy. That's also biblical. The abstract took a look of the spirit hovered over the waters. So that's the material potential. And the abstract said, let there be light. And so that's the abstract and material mixing together and making reality. It's amazing how all these patterns are intertwined. And all this is found in song lyrics. Like, you can draw that line pretty well. So eating up the space between us. So the abstract and the material are getting closer. Relationship. That seems like a good thing, unless, I don't know, unless you're zapped into a robot world, I guess. It's eating up all remaining doubt. It's filling up the hole inside you. It's trying to find a way to let itself out. I was trying to write notes on this topic, so I wrote down, the more true or real an idea is, the more it manifests, or the more it's recognized. And the mind in the abstract fills the body in time. You become more aware of yourself and more competent with your flesh and your mind as you get older. At least you should. You can let it waste away. That's your choice. But if you, practice being a person, you tend to be more of a character. And the other thing about the psychoanalytic approach is, if there's something you don't contend with that you should, especially when it involves other people interactions, it'll grow until it eventually boils over or explodes in a circumstance you don't want. So it's better to deal with issues at the front end sooner rather than letting them grow and manifest, because then they can flip. It could be a rational misunderstanding into like an emotional explosion. And anytime you let emotion lead you, you make the worst decisions of your life. It's like that with everybody. Now, maybe you can make a good one, but reason is what you want to lead with. It's like your shield that protects the passion inside of you. It prevents it from blowing up. And that's again, the symbol of Carl Jung and the unconscious is the blind girl and the old man that can see everything. You need to protect the blind. You need to protect the feeling. So you use truth for the sake of feeling. That's why I don't agree with Ben Shapiro's "the truth doesn't care about your feeling." That's Ben Shapiro's slogan. You use the truth properly for the sake of your feelings. These things inside of you, especially the issues, especially the unfulfilled longing. I think it was Aquinas that said, I might be wrong on this, there's a God-shaped vacuum in every human heart, and only God is big enough to fill it, but we're ever searching, trying to fill it with something. So that's another way of kind of grasping at something that's not as meaningful as the most meaningful thing. So we're at this conundrum again, where if God does not exist, we go in and down, and we try to fill something up that can never be filled, instead of reaching for something, which is, I think, what we're supposed to do. Anyway, let's continue.
Give me something to believe in. All these hands have got a hold on me. Give me something to believe in. As alive as you need me to be.
Wow. So I know it's only a few lines, but that's still worth pausing and dissecting. I love the red theme here too, with because it complements the Tron movie. Give me something to believe in. All these hands have got a hold of me. Give me something to believe in, as alive as you need me to be. So he goes from the abstract, give me something to believe in, to the material. These hands have a hold on me. Back to the abstract, give me something to believe in. And then the mixture of the two, abstract and material, alive. Like, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be conscious? We have no idea what consciousness is, besides, like, metaphors to explain it, which, to be honest, is what we need for everything. So the flesh, sensory perception, allows us to know we are not alone. The belief and the ideal of purpose are found through the flesh and perception. Your personhood fills your being. So what does that mean? Well, we can start in the middle with this one. Give me something to believe in. That's the ideal in the abstract. That's calling out to God. Calling out to something beyond yourself. You could say it's even the transcendent. Like, whatever you want to call that. It's beyond you. You're reaching for something. And I guess in the Tron world, it would be the users, right? There's something they can never reach out to. All these hands have got a hold on me. Well, that kind of, I think that's a tie into the regular mundane life. How many things are you plugged into that you're obligated to? I go to church. I have a family. I like doing martial arts. I have a yard. I have a cat. I have a wife. I have kids. All these hands have got a hold on me. Like, there's so many things that pull your attention here and there. They're not maybe physical hands, but they kind of are, because you have all these obligations that you have to fulfill. So you need something that keeps you, even though all these things are pulling on you, and they're like a weight, they're like a cross you carry, even though that weight could be totally unbearable, you need something to go to. You need a why. And this is Nietzsche saying, right? Those who have the proper why can withstand almost any how. And as alive as you need me to be, that's answering the call. You might be pulled with a certain talent or skill set, a certain direction. You can choose what degree you answer that call. It's kind of like when God is described as love. God is love. Well, maybe. God, for whatever we think God is, he's probably a little bit more complex than that. But the concept is you get to choose your proximity to him. If you want to be a more perfect version of yourself, you are attempting to approach what God had in store for you. God wants you to be the perfect version of yourself. That's the whole point of all the commandments and everything else that was ever given to us in the biblical sense of the word. They weren't meant for oppression. Even the in the context of slavery in the Bible, The idea was like, okay, everybody has slaves. Here's how you treat them better than everybody else. And so it's like this incremental progression on consciousness waking up to the fact that mankind has dignity, and we all work a lot better if we treat each other as if we have dignity, and the only way we can get that dignity is if it's given to us by something above. Because if it's not given to us by something above, then it's whatever your opinion or my opinion or the government's opinion is. And they could be wrong. The government can be wrong, believe it or not, and so can people. And then, well, how do you solve that? Well, you fight. And that's just, and then it devolves into the language of power. I beat you, you listen to me. I don't want to. Okay, I kill you. And I kill your kids and everybody else that's involved with that idea. You kill off the idea. But if you're going to reach for something that is authentic life, and you want to be alive as you need to be, like as alive as you need me to be. So that's who are you talking to there? The you need, the abstract. So give me something to believe in. You want to reach and hold on to it. I will be alive as you need me to be in order to continue onward. And there's something about an ideal that extracts meaning out of you. You pursue it and you believe in the goodness of it, whatever that purpose is, regardless of what stands in your way. So I use this example at work, right? Like, this is a pretty easy one. 3 guys come into the room and start fighting you. What do? Do you lay down and be like, oh man, they got me? There's just too many of you. Or do you fight until you're dead? You know what I mean? There's still a chance you're still breathing, you're still alive. So you believe in the goodness of being despite what's happening. Obviously in that one, it's survival. So yeah, life is worth living. You have dignity and they're trying to take it away. That's a violation of life. It's a violation of the ideal. So the crux of it, as alive as you need me to be, is talking about that pull. That even though mortality is at the end, right? Everybody dies. We all lose in some sense. I need something that pulls me on despite all that. Because death is also one of those hands that's on you. It's tugging you down. The question is, what do you do with that? Like, how heavy is that weight? How much anxiety does it give you that blinds you to what potential you might have in this life?
Always gonna go this way, there's no turning back. Never any other way, there's no turning back. Everything for a reason, everything for a reason, everything for a reason, everything for a reason. Give me something to believe in. All these hands have got a hold on me. Give me something to believe in. As alive as you need me to be.
Really how Trent Reznor has like this entropic effect on all of his songs. It gets distorted almost beyond recognition. But then there's a new song. Like it's almost like, yeah, it fades away, but then something grows out of that. His whole album concepts are really cool. So always going to be this way, never any other way. There's no turning back. Time goes one direction. The whole concept of having something ahead of you, having an ideal to chase, is you're not stuck in the past. One of the things they tell rape victims, not all the time, right? But they tell rape victims is you are not that. You are not that moment. You are better than that. There's something more to you than just that moment. Anybody with PTSD is the same thing. They try to wrap your head around the concept that you are not stuck in one traumatic instance. You need something to believe in, something that pulls you, because trauma is one of those hands that's on you that pulls you back constantly. There's never going to be any other way. And that's just the nature of time. It's the nature of finitude. You had a starting place. You were born out of the chaos. Your potential and your character were abstracted. Life has been carving them out as you've been going on. And the way out is through, as per the Fragile. You need to continue going. I really like the beat at the end of this song. It reminds me, it's like a combination of what the theme in Heresy and the Background World. I really, really enjoy that song, The Background World. I might even dive into that one. But there's a mantra at the end of it, everything for a reason. And he says it 4 times, and he says it gets more frustrating every single time. And it's an understandable frustration. It's kind of circular. How many times can you ask why? Like, really, how many times before you don't have an answer, you get stuck? Why? Like, if you have children, eventually it's because I said so. But if you don't have kids, and you're looking at higher concepts, which we do, I think, at least a lot of us should, I recommend constantly being in search of knowledge until the day you die. Why not? Uncover the secrets of the universe as far as you can. You know what I mean? Bounce it off reality. Make sure it's true. Ask other people's opinions. Try to find out what's good and true and holy and worthy of calling to you. That seems like like, what else are you doing? Gaining momentary pleasure on the internet? Seeking out dopamine rushes? Eating massive amounts of food and drinking 20 Red Bulls a day? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Helping other people, that's worthy of doing. Why would you help out other people? Well, it depends on the purpose of life. It depends what's calling you. So when you ask why, asking why is also calling out to that thing you believe in. That's your undergirding reason. Why? Because, it calls to me. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God first, but love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the 2 commands that Christ gave us. And it turns out if you live life like that, everybody is better. Because you see the image of God on other people. But if there's no up, if there's nothing that calls to you, if there's nothing you can believe in, and I'm not talking about just feeling like you want to believe in it, but knowing it and using your reason to go toward the proper direction, the proper ideal. And I'm really hammering this in this song, but other songs as well. And I do this with my friends too, but they can only take so much of it, and I understand that. I read a bit of Plato's excerpts when talking about his mentor Socrates, and Socrates was called the wisest person on earth by the Oracle of Delphi. And the reason why is because, well, there's a couple reasons. He said he didn't know anything. Everybody else was certain about what they knew. He said, I don't know anything. I always ask questions. But he also said he had a daemon in his head which would tell him what not to do. And so he's giving this talk. He's on trial. And he's like, she told me this, and I did my best to discredit her. I went around all over the place asking people who I thought were wise, who others said they were wise. Turns out they weren't. They would they would posit truth without being certain about it. Like, maybe not 100% certain, but at least, pretty close to that. And so he was never certain. He would always try to dissect. Nietzsche did the same thing, philosophizing with a hammer. You look for a worldview and a truth you can't destroy with reason. That's the whole concept. So as Socrates was going about his world, he eventually started talking to the poets and the songwriters. And he found out that the more profound things that they would write, like, they didn't even understand what they were writing. Like, it springs up from you. And I think this is true. It could be for people like Trent Reznor, the cultural music thing that kind of plays in the background, the court gestures of ancient times that would just say what other people were thinking, but they would say it in jest. Well, what are you really doing? You've kind of been planting a thought in the mind of the people. But where did that thought come from? It came from the individual, sure, but at the same time, and this is what Jung calls the collective unconscious, How do you create a thought? Like, really, your brain does it. No. Be more specific. Like, it's so utterly complex to create a thought that it's absurd to think that you actually do it. Like, did you make your IQ? Did you make your eyes to read? Did you make your ears hear? You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff is kind of gifted and granted to you. And I like Carl Jung because he really helps me think, but he described all of thought as furniture in a house, and you get to choose which one to sit in. And so maybe people with higher IQ get a couple more pieces of furniture, and you get to choose which one's more comfortable. I don't know. But thoughts emerge. These concepts behind the musics that we enjoy emerge. And we get to choose which ones that we follow. And the ones I think that call out to us the most resonate with life and resonate with truths that are universal. And this is one of those songs, I think. I can't wait to hear the rest of them. I'm going to order the album and probably just dive into that one, listen to it a couple 100,000 times like I did with all the others. I was kind of impressed with this song. I don't know what you guys think, probably being long-time Nine Inch Nails fans. It sounds like other songs, sure, but it's still new, and I think the concept is still decent. Trent Reznor as a character always fascinated me because he was, went on his angry phase of the downward spiral, Lollapalooza. He got addicted to drugs and then cleaned up his act, had a family. That is willpower. And then eventually, even though his lyrics are pretty harsh, he comes up with the idea that a God has to exist because he can't understand what the point of all the suffering without one. You know what I mean? The problem of evil and suffering is an internal critique of specifically the Judeo-Christian realm. Outside of God, pain just is. There is no evil. Again, we're back to the power thing. I think it's evil. Well, someone else doesn't. So then what do? Well, we fight. It goes back to a power dynamic instead of like an objective truth dynamic. And you can force objective truth onto the world, I suppose. But the thing is, we're all finite mortals. And so eventually your reign's going to end, and your son or the generation after you is going to see exactly what you did and decide if it's good or not. So the next generation judges you. And then maybe you can make the case that if we eventually get into the cybernetic reality of Tron, we can upload our consciousness to the internet, and then maybe we will sort of live forever. But to be honest, judging by the way that AI continues on its progression, if you upload anything to that, you're either going to be absorbed into the ether, or you're just going to come back changed. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. A psychoanalysis of As Alive as You Need Me to Be. Like and subscribe if you like this. I got more reading mixes coming out because I just keep writing, and it seems like Trent Reznor and his ambient music for soundtracks seems the best possible thing that invigorates me when it comes to the creative realm. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you later. Take care.